The altitude one claims in life is purely determined outside of his hours, what you do. All that very successful people who have made it very big, including politicians, I would say, how much time they invested in themselves matters a lot. The investing yourself is a very, very powerful concept. To be an effective leader, to learn various aspects of business. Whenever something is learned, I will look at where I am deficient today. If I learn that area, can I go back and apply in my office? And that's very important. That drove me every day. So I think the system is changing quite a lot. I think all it requires is you come and just listen here. Monotonous teaching, one-way teaching is not going to help, is what I would say. A risk is not anymore a kind of this thing, a real risk. A calculated, chewable risk is what we call.
Warm welcome to Sri CKR.
Good afternoon.
So,
good afternoon all.
Good afternoon. It's really nice to have you here amidst all the leading educationalists throughout Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
And it's a great opportunity for all of us to know your views on the most important aspect of, one of the aspect of NEP, that is skill education, promotion of skill education. And that is much needed in the current scenario proposed by the Prime Minister. And how do we take it forward? That is the main thing. And in that one aspect is the entrepreneurial mindset is what we are going to focus here. And we are sure that we will benefit from your words in this. And I know him, and we know him as entrepreneur, great entrepreneur in India. That is one aspect of it. But I have interacted with him in the capacity of an real educationalist. Okay, so that part of it is known to me, and I do not know how far you are aware of it. And he drives a lot of things in this aspect, in the educational arena. Okay, so definitely we will be benefited from this. Now, you were also going through the formal education that we have been doing. Okay, so from there, what have you learned, and how do you apply that part of it in your business, that is entrepreneurial journey?
Come back.
Like how we were trained, probably you would have been trained in schools and college education. But how much of it you were able to apply in your business career or entrepreneurial career?
To be honest, I think there is a big deviation. I think I can say a survey that only 5% of the people are able to apply what they have learned in schools and colleges in real life situation or in the job, on the job. I think it is 95% you have to keep learning. That's a very important thing. So when I came into business, I would say that I learned a lot myself, applied, and that learning of mine in the life skill has begun only after college, only coming into business is what I would say. I would not brush it aside that what I learned in schools and colleges are not useful. More, I would say the kind of this thing, peer level interaction skills, and the kind of this thing, teamwork, and many things we learned in the process. That was very much useful is what I would say. So therefore, the school and colleges are not a place just to learn academic thing alone. I would like to say is a lot of learning happens on the job, and the preparation happen. I can tell my example, and also it's true across the world. Very important thing. I think whether it is applying to a principal or a teacher or any part of work, the altitude one claims in life is purely determined outside of his hours, what you do. So that's a very, very important thing. Many people think that they will come to office or go to the school and push themselves, whatever they do, and that's sufficient. When I go out, that's going to be purely my personal time. I will spend with family, friends, and leisure kind of this thing. That's how it's majority. I would say 95% of the people spend life like that. But the fact is that what you spend outside is a very, very important thing. I'm not telling that you need to spend most of the time, but very clearly, successful leaders across the world, be it, I would say, Jack Ma of Alibaba, if you look at, or Bill Gates, you ask all that very successful people who have made it very big, including politicians, I would say. So I'm not telling just it's only one walks of only, it happens in business. Um, how much time they invested in themselves matters a lot. So that I think is a very, very important thing, how they, Warren Buffett, he was just a paper boy, and he was just, he had little formal education, he was serving papers, and he earned his own livelihood that way as this thing. Started out for the age of 8 years kind of this thing as a errand boy. And today is amongst the top 3 richest people in the world. And what a financial wizard he is, worldwide he is appreciated. And the kind of thing, if somebody wants to have lunch with him, you need to pay close to about 1.5 crores for the lunch. 1 hour of time spent, you have to pay 1.5 hours. And that goes to charity. That's very clearly, it's very clearly outlined and where it goes and so on. So a lot of people queue up. If you want to kind of this thing, spend time with him, you have to book at least a year in advance. And that's happening. Every day he spends time with people. Around the world, people have dining lunch with him. One kind of, because he's a stock market wizard, he invests in stocks which are very right, which company to invest, therefore, long term he makes fortune out of that, which will grow and so on. So one guy has said, okay, I am going to spend time with Warren Buffett and pick up some insights. So they spent, he booked, and the lunchtime came, they were spending time together, almost an hour over, and Warren Buffett just stood up and said, okay, thank you gentlemen, it's nice catching up with you. And he said, just, I have a last 2 minutes. Give me a kind of this thing, which stocks I have to invest so that I will go on the kind of this thing, invest and take the money what I have spent close to 1.5 crores in spending time with you. At least I should get back this money. So he said, if I tell you an idea of which stocks to invest, you will earn money. But after that, you will lose that in some form or other. Rather, I would give you an advice which will last for lifelong. He said, invest in yourself. Don't look at where to invest in yourself. So I would say the investing yourself is a very, very powerful concept. And my life, if you look at, when I passed out of school, I had close to 28 arrears, so college, 28 arrears. And I finished off after 2 years' time, okay? None of my college mates believed that I can perform very well in business. And that's a reality, nor I did believe in myself. But all I did is a sincere work and hard work I did. Morning 5:30 to 8 o'clock is where I started sincerely investing in myself. And I put an alarm. It was very difficult. I like sleeping. I slept about 8 to 9 hours of time before this thing, starting my own business. But when I started my business, it's burning midnight oil. So after office hours, because you can learn during the office hours, but to be an effective leader, to learn various aspects of business, I started developing myself, thinking a lot. And I think those defined my path. That 2.5 hours, a systematic 5-section, I would say I have invested. And that has defined. I don't want to take too much of a time. All I can say is, investing is a very, very important thing. So spend time outside office hours, something, even an hour or two. Alibaba said he invests between night 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Everybody has a different time. But majority I have studied worldwide, in the mornings, kind of this thing is the most fruitful time. For some people, it's night. For example, my daughter says night time is more peaceful to me. For me, if you look at, I get tired after finishing off office 6:30, 7 o'clock, I'm shut off. I can't do that. I'm happy to wake up early and put myself into that kind of thing. So each one clock works very, very differently. So, but for us to grow in life, I think it's very important individually. Please invest something in your life which is relevant, which can be applied on the job immediately is very important. It's not something I'll read a book, some knowledge I gather, it's waste. That's very important, powerful point I learned. Whenever something is learned, I will look at where I am deficient today. If I learn that area, can I go back and apply in my office? And that's very important. That drove me every day. So that helped me a lot in terms of learning and applying. Learning and applying. When I apply, I see, oh, I'm improving better. So therefore, it motivated me to come back and learn. And that's what I would say. If you ask me, I don't know any other method to spend my time in the morning between 5:30 and 8. It's clearly that's a programmed one I invest in myself. And that's the reason I think otherwise a 28 arrear, border mark pass every time. Only I don't even talk in English. I don't think you would have invited me now. It is that sheer hard work has made me to kind of sing, and the systematic work is what I would say. Thank you.
Very lovely to note this point and the skill that you have developed. Was it out of compulsion at that point of time, or how it has become a passion little later? How this get transformed into that?
No, I think it was not a compulsion. It started off as a survival of the fittest. I need to survive. I challenged my family. I said, I am walking out of the family with whatever it is. I am not going to be with you, nor with the family business. Therefore, I don't want to go back and surrender. I failed. So I need to succeed. That was the first thing. It was survival first. It came into my rescue. And after that, once I started, kind of the clock is moving slowly. It was a struggle for about 5-6 years, I would say. It was not a very comfortable journey. But once some level of settling in done, I think I started reading because of that. Because in schools and colleges, I only read during examinations, only 2 days before. But now, every day I read. Every day it's a very clear program to reading and understanding. Not only that, reading is one. I will read about 5-6 pages, but think for 10 minutes or 15 minutes as to if I like something in the reading, I say, how am I going to apply this? How am I going to measure it? Is a very, very important thing. So I reflect every Sunday morning 10 to 12 o'clock. My time is to review what are all the things I have done, where I am supposed to be there. I will kind of do it. If you ask me, I have a 5-year goal because by virtue of reading, because a lot of principles are there, well-proven principles across the world. And it's very important. I have a 5-year goal. There is a concept called Wheel of Life. How do you spend your time? Financially, what is your goal? Family-wise, what is your goal? What is your health-wise goal? So like that, about 7 aspects of life, you deal with that. Spiritual on all angles. I think once you do that and work out a program behind that, go all out. I think it's life, slowly it moves, but over a period of time, you substantially improve, is what I have seen.
Very nice, and thank you for the good input. Now, with the disruptive technology already in place, and the trends are changing, and our education system has not transformed. Okay, but keeping that in mind, what input would you like to give to all these educators to bring that into reality? How do we realize?
One of the important thing I would say is the system of students learning in the classroom is a very important here to stay. So that cannot be eliminated. But can the preparation be done by the students one day before? Tomorrow I am going to learn this. Can I come prepared for that? Therefore, I will do quite a lot of practical and interactive classrooms would go a long way is my viewpoint. So the learning is very deeply etched. Otherwise, it becomes most of the times the teacher teaches and the students sometimes ask questions. Most of the time they will listen to the teacher. If I come prepared, I think that will go a long way. Can we use technology mainly to give a very interactive kind of thing? If you look at some the earlier eminent speakers, I'm sure a lot of ideas would have come. The schools and the education system should move on in terms of a self-paced learning, very important thing. And coming to the school, I learn much more higher order, in-depth application. So if we can change over that, it will make a huge difference. Therefore, developing video contents, developing a lot of AR, VR related kind of thing, augmented reality, virtual reality, all these things would do a much better this thing, because then you can apply a life science much more in this case, is what I would say. So for example, AR, I would say augmented reality. Let us take that as a thing, how one can apply in the kind of thing. Chemistry kind of the thing classes, people look at, can I mix this chemical, 2 chemicals, 3 chemicals, 5 chemicals, what happens in stages. If I really mix it in the lab, sometime it may explode. We don't know the kind of consequences. Rather, can it be using augmented reality be simulated? A simulation helps the students to understand what proportion I mix, what happens. What is the kind of reaction it happens. It can all be programmed very clearly. The students can learn like that. Whether it is this kind of things or anything you can apply. It is, I'm just telling an experiment for the chemicals, but any aspect of it, can it be simulated like that is my viewpoint. But virtual reality, you know that it is very clearly that really putting yourself in that kind of a world. It is learning a car driving, you'll feel you are actually in a traffic. You are really there. You will, for a moment, you will forget, am I really sitting on the chair in the computer in front of me, or am I on the drive car kind of this thing? So that I think is a very important thing. The virtual reality we have to bring in. So this is a way the education system need to leverage digital and move on. Fundamentally, can the students prepare? If you look at, go to Harvard or go to Stanford and this kind of advanced colleges, why they are rated very high, if you look at. Because we need to learn from that. Some of the people pay premium, the top-notch talent in the world, go there and kind of this thing. It's very difficult. If you look at our own students to getting seats there, it's not easier. So, but what is that so different about them is, if you really look at that, the preparation, the materials, what is given, they have to come prepared. It is more an interactive class. You know, some of the universities, very successful universities, you know that we are looking at 40 students, 35 students in a class, 300 students in a class, 350 students in a class. But what a discipline, what kind of an interaction. You can go and see the lively kind of this thing, what's happening. It is something amazing to learn. So I think the system is changing quite a lot. I think all it requires is, you come and just listen here. Monotonous teaching, one-way teaching is not going to help, is what I would say.
Thank you for the valuable points that you have driven. And coming to this concept of entrepreneur and entrepreneurial skills, is there any difference in the working condition? By and large, we think that entrepreneur means making money, doing business. This is what comes in normal minds, okay, doing business and making money. You are an entrepreneur and you have some idea, you conceive an idea, you move forward. But really, you are not the only person who is driving the entire business. What kind of skills you look from your staff members? Okay, are they entrepreneurs themselves, or you are an entrepreneur, they are something different? So what is your view?
So entrepreneurship, if you look at, I would say there is a lot of entrepreneurs maybe sitting here itself, if you ask me. But you chose not to take that risk. But you might have all the capabilities. So that's my point. The risk taking would have been curtailed by the family. Don't do that kind of this thing. Or you feel that I'm capable, but why am I not doing it? It is okay, I have a compulsion, I have taken a loan, or I have taken a car, or a kind of this thing, house loan, I have to repay. Why to unnecessarily rock the boat? So enough compulsion around the society also makes very few people break out and come. And also see quite a lot of failures across the world, if you look at. So, okay, somebody has started, they have been doing very well. You see one end, you see a rosy picture of somebody doing very well. Other end, you also see people failing very badly from what it is. I am better off after some time. So the risk-taking ability is cutting down. One of the very foundation of an entrepreneurship is ability to take risk. But I would say earlier it used to be like a gamble. You take a risk, it work, it may not work. Now it's a science. A risk is not anymore a kind of this thing, a real risk. A calculated, chewable risk is what we call. And even in business, big business, if you say, years together, they are continuing to be very strong and keep growing. So because businesses have learned that what is that if I take one decision, it cannot jeopardize the interest of the business itself. In playing cards, there is a concept called betting the full house. You would have seen in James Bond movie, you would push all the coins in front of him. So that is betting the full house. Whatever money, finally he will walk and go. Don't even have this thing to go back. So like that, that is very wrong in business. You should not bet. This is what is very important. So people need to be taught. Anything, I have a simple rule in business. For example, in our company, we will take risk. We take a lot of calls. Every investment is a decision, is a risk. But what is very important, if we take something, that impact, if we lose, that is not going to work, 100% it's going to fail. It should not have a shock effect, not more than 90 days, period, 3 months. That's it. I need to come back to the same old level and keep running. So majority, that kind of risk, we will take only twice in a year, not more than that, not more than 2 times in a year. Majority of the risk, if you look at that, it not even if it loses, no impact. I keep moving. I will keep trying new things. I will not tighten my belt. It is like I borrowed too much. Oh, reduce these expenses. Don't do that. That should happen only very rarely. Most of the time, business as usual. You should have. You will go to dine in a good hotel, kind of this thing like our family will do. Same kind of things. So de-risking the decisions, scientific way of kind of measuring, researching is very, very important. So we do a lot of research, stimulation, and say that what happens is, so that de-risking is a very important. For example, why would a consumer buy my product? Is this kind of a thing against what competition will do? All are very difficult to assess. But there are people who are experts. This is what we call it marketing, who can take decisions in an uncertain way, uncertain area, and also predict how likely the situation is evolve, and predict competition also. What is likely to be their response to this? I think very important. So predicting your competition, predicting the consumer behavior is a very important science one need to learn. So we develop people like that, we train them and have such kind of skill set. We see out of 10 people, 2 people will have that extraordinary skill set. Not all. Those people will belong to marketing, but others who are reasonable, they may take care of production, which are very predictable, easy kind of thing. Unpredictable area is a different cup of tea. So you need to know whom to field where, and once you know that art, it is very easy. So coming back, I would say entrepreneurship is no more a risk like the past kind of this thing. The science has evolved in the business world. That is why a lot of people are jumping in. And the digital thing that's coming in, the kind of way the software and the kind of thing is evolving is helping a lot. It's no more a kind of rocket science. Above all, I would say one thing. If somebody to succeed in business or in a job in a big way, job also I would say, anywhere, passion. Passion is one which will define your altitude. That's passion knows no boundary at all. So when I started, I was very passionate. I wanted to succeed. I wanted to see how high is high. But I didn't have the requisite skill sets at all. I was completely very weak in terms of whether it's speaking in English or subject knowledge. You would have interviewed me on any angle. You say, this guy is not fit for any job. But that's very different compared to my skill set started growing because my passion was far higher and stronger. So I started investing my time. I started learning it. So we learned that technique. Having gone through myself, we have identified people who are coming there for 9-to-5 job, but those who are looking at passionately putting their heart in that, they enjoy doing it. And those kind of people, we loaded them with higher responsibility. We gave them time to learn. In our company, if you look at, there is 1 hour spent every day. They have to learn on the job. It is spending some textbook or YouTube, which are prescribed, pre-prescribed. This is the area you need to learn this proficiency this quarter. Every day you have to learn. 1 hour you have to spend is a discipline hour. For example, in our R&D, between morning 9:30 and 11:30, 2 hours. Research and development is 2 hours of learning. And they have to make a presentation on Friday to an August forum. Each one will be kind of a thing. There is a team of members who will monitor the kind of learning and the software. It's all how much it's not just simple presentation, boss and subordinates. It's a forum that will be watching. What is the idea I get out of the learning? What is getting implemented? What's the impact because of the implementation? We measure the learning to outcome of each individual. And that makes a big difference. So we have become a learning organization, and in the process we are able to develop leaders continuously, is what I would say. Sorry to detour, and I'm taking a lot of time in answering.
Very
questions.
nice input that we have got, taking risk. I think we all as educators should take a little bit of more risk in our attempts. And second thing is calculated risk is another point that we have got. And passion, how do we drive the passion is one of the key points, irrespective of what we do. Is a very, very nice input that we have got.
Passion it has to come within. You can't coach passion at all.
No, we can't teach passion, but what I am telling is that if we are passionate, then they imbibe such kind of qualities in them, in the area of interest.
Yeah.
Okay, so first let's develop that part of it more and exhibit to them as a sample. Now, if you see the school education, and these are all the qualities that are there, how do we drive these kind of things in the school education? Should we start in schools, keeping the entrepreneurship in mind, whether they become a businessman or not? This mindset is very important for them to be happy in their own life, also to develop career. So, what is your view that should it start at the school level? Because our education system or board of education doesn't recommend, that has not trained us or they have not given input so far. But now we have to, as leaders, we have to give these kind of things to ourselves as well as to the people, the teachers with whom we are working, irrespective of the subjects that they teach. So how do we make it? Any input or suggestion from you?
Yeah. I would say that we must take accountability for that as schools and principal and this thing. I think education institutions also must take 50% accountability for that, is my viewpoint. A human being has 24 hours. So everybody has the same kind of this thing. 8 hours minimum, children you can expect them, minimum 8 hours they will sleep. Okay. So somebody may sleep 9 hours, 10 hours is different, but 8 hours is a minimum thing. Around 8 hours, including coming and going time, they'll spend in school. Okay? And another 8 hours they may spend outside the school with the parents, morning time, evening time, or friends, all other thing in front of TV, whatever the way they want to spend. So we have 8 hours of time with us, close to that, or at least 7 hours. So can we use that very effectively than just coaching them the concepts of the only academic thing, a lot of life skills, habits, attitudes, because life is all about attitudes, habits. If you have inculcate the right habit, it will build them dramatically very different. I feel school must take ownership of building leaders, not a 10+1 herd, is my viewpoint. The schools must have a very clear clarity of, I am going to build leader. They can become an entrepreneur, or they can become a head of a company, or a head of a division, or a head of a function. So the leadership is a very important trait and quality we can teach. Fortunately to that, we have so many other students around us in the class. It's not singly I am going to learn. So whether my own friends are around me, it's easy to practice, easy to do. So look at that in the schools, you have some activities. For example, I know Bala Vidya Mandir has a yearly activity of what is that we do? The various schools we call this thing, no?
Kalanjali.
Kalanjali is a thing that is being done, and the students take a responsibility. They collect, they do all the programs, when to structure and so on. Do you think what they do in that? We have to do more and more in terms of learning how to organize, how to go and raise sponsorship, how to kind of this thing, their own level coordination. Quite a lot of leadership skills they learn, teamwork they learn. Fabulous. Do you think in a classroom session they will learn that? Chances are very less. So more can the schools expose the students more and more of those kind of life skills? I would say that would go a long way. So creating habits, there are quite a lot of habit creation, 7 habits of highly effective people. If you look at that book, came into me very handy. When after my college one day I happened to bump on that book. I listened to that and read it at least close to about 10 times, both audio, cassette and this thing. I will stop at one para, rewind it, listen to that and say, what is that I'm going to apply? What is lack in me? How am I going to change? So I did that kind of a thing. That has become a way of life. You ask me all the 7 habits and the 8th habit also, in anything, any way kind of a thing, which is a habit and which number, how to apply in your personal self or in the office situation. I can talk on any dimensions, because over a period of time, thinking and applying has become a way of life for me. If you ask me, those kind of things are very, very important. There's another book I read, very interesting book. I would say 10 Natural Laws of Successful Life and Time Management. And very powerful. I learned time management, but life management, the 10 principles of life. I think that is a very profound book, is what I would say. In that book I learned, because my parents didn't, it was just a learning. In the book I learned one thing. What are your governing values? How a governing value should be? Governing values are nothing but the values, if you know, these are my values which are very dear to me. And if I start, once I know that, the values will tell you whether you can do this or not do this. Kind of this thing, very clear. So when the governing values are enhanced, the decision making process is dramatically easier. Normally I can tell you my advantage, because I am so much trained kind of this thing, trained myself. Somebody takes a decision, very complicated decision, to take a decision about 1 hour time, I will take it up in 2 minutes time. Because my clarity, this can be done, this is impact and so on, it can quickly work, mind can quickly work because it's trained. It's not a rocket science, I can tell you. The governing values are very clear, this you can do, this you won't do. Very clear, easy. Half the time we spend dilemma, whether I can do it, what to do, or should I do it, and kind of this thing. So if this is taught in the classrooms itself, it will make a big difference, is my view. Let's teach all the other concepts of science, mathematics and other things. I am not telling no. But at least we should spend some good portion of time in values, principles, habits. Habits are very powerful, because your habits will determine your altitude also. So behavior, very important. How will I behave if there is a kind of emergency that comes in, or some death in the family? Will I mourn all the time? I see some parents doing it. My parents did that way. I should follow the same thing, or is there any better method? Unless I am taught somewhere, I will not. How do I know? I will only just ape what has been said by my ancestors or somebody in front of me, which is a very important thing. But there are very powerful concepts, I can tell you. Fantastic things are available in the books, YouTube and audio format. I think it's up to us to make use of that.
Right. Very beautifully put forth. The taking decision is one of the main aspects you have driven. Between the stimulus and the response, there is a short time, and you have to make your decision.
So you are talking of 7 habits.
Yeah. So we have to make the decisions within that time, and it should be following your fundamental ethical principles that you adopt. Very beautifully driven. And in this context, I would like to hear from you. By and large, mediocrity, if you see the bell curve, mostly any parameter you study, there is a bell curve, and mediocrity is there in every field. As educators, how do we push ourselves from the mediocrity to skewed towards a higher performance in terms of our operations, that will have a huge impact on the children as well.
Yeah, my viewpoint is each children we are uniquely gifted, if you look at. So if we want them to perform all the time only in academics, sometime it may not be a.
I'm not talking about academics in
Okay.
general. When I say mediocrity in operations of whatever we do.
That I would say that it can happen only by giving a one-time instruction will not help, is my viewpoint. A constant dialogue, inspiring them and changing their mindset. Whatever way you do that, if you can inspire them to be passionate, if you inspire them to be setting a higher goal, if they can say that, okay, I have to achieve, and if you bring that kind of a thing and train them also, it will make a big difference. I would say that one of the important things that we do is a weekly review. Weekly review of certain tasks. We'll tell if something has to be done, can this be broken into pieces? What will be done in this week? What will be done in next week? When it will complete? Very clearly documented. The planning itself is very, very important. If that is done, then there is a review every Monday. There is a review what is supposed to have happened last week, and this is all punched in the software. They know what they have done also. I will not come and ask, oh, what you have done. I will not ask, because before coming itself, I will see what they have done. We can see. So that's the way we have created the softwares. And what happens is, once it is in the review, it is done, people know, oh, there is going to be a review, they will come prepared and they will ensure the mediocrity completely vans away. Even if they want them to enhance their knowledge, please ensure that you come prepared. There is going to be some kind of application of the knowledge. We'll see how it is being done. If we can put the right thing, I'm sure even a mediocre person, otherwise so-called mediocre, can be pulled up to kind of this thing. In life, I can say one thing, achieving extraordinary thing with ordinary people is a greatest leadership skill. So if you are given all the extraordinary people, I have done something fantastic, it's not nothing great about it. Can you do something with ordinary people? So therefore, I think you will be given a lot of things with mediocrity and so on. But how do you inspire them? How do you kind of work around them? How do you make them to also run along with you at the same speed? Is all about leadership, is what I would say.
That is also an entrepreneurial skill. When in our operation, I think that we have to push more people there. Great.
I think we are
now, yeah, the last point. Now, under this context, we understand various points. Is there any possibility of what you call we working together and seeking your help in order to promote the entrepreneur skill in the minds of educators, which will have a dominant role in execution?
Yeah, one of the things I would like to say on entrepreneurship, can you go and expose them to companies? Can you go and expose them as, for example, a small department store, how it works, what is the margin he keeps, where he buys it, or a mechanic shop or a tea shop. So which one, the small one, they can easily comprehend before I say how the car is made, because that comprehension will be difficult. At an appropriate age, at a 6th standard onwards, if you can expose them, what level they can comprehend the simplest business, you can expose them and make them to work how a tea is made. For example, making tea in a tea shop, what is the cost of milk, what is the cost of sugar, what's the cost of tea dust, and all put together, how much you take. Can you work out the costing of the tea? Can you work out what is the rent he will pay? Can you work out what is the cost of his labor? All put together, what is the tea he sells, how much tea he has to sell, and what is the margin he will earn in a month. Give him such kind of simple, the children, this kind of homework. See them dramatically, they will improve. Show them the demonstration. We show in our school, we take them to kind of this thing to the tea shops, and that's one of the first thing. I'll ask them to do it. They will go and work at the home. They will make coffee, tea, and they will come back with the casting. They'll learn like that, is what I would say. So like that, I think entrepreneurship can be practical, expose them step by step, and also I would say that parallelly talk about the calculated risk taking also. Don't be afraid of taking risk. It is not risk. Don't take a blind risk. I think we need to say blind risk is the biggest sin you can do it to yourself. You need to take very calculated, measured, and less riskier decisions is a very important thing. How to de-risk itself is a big subject. It looks like a big risk. Can I shift over to this job? Will this be the right company? What kind of homework I do that will help me in terms of, yes, this is the right decision. I have done my homework thoroughly on all angles, and therefore very likely it will fail. Can you come back with that kind of a thing? So every decision has like that. There is a parameters. So the de-risking is a very important thing. We need to teach them that skill set, is what I would say. Thank you, Raghavan, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Srikar, for sparing your valuable time as well as input. And as educators leading the show in the schools with disruptive technologies, let us also become disruptive educationalists in our institution, is what is a simple takeaway and valuable takeaway that we get from this session.
Talking about design thinking and skill-based education, and your family did in 3 decades before. And your brother said, and the velvet shampoo sachet story, and you know that nowadays chas and cough syrup, all the shampoo is coming in this velvet sachet. And the CavinKare only the first introduced the shampoos in that sachet format. And he said some story behind that. And I thought he will also share that story to this audience. And nowadays know that in the NEP 2020 says about a skill-based education. And Tamil Nadu people are misinterpret that it is Kulakalvi. And one particular set of people only has to do one same set of job. And the natural is one of the best example. And you know, wherever we see naturals and this belongs to a CavinKare family, I always quote, and it's not belongs to one particular sector of the, any people has interest and they can do any kind of job. So whenever I go for a resource person talking about skill-based education, I will also quote this your naturals and the velvet shampoo story to them. You can please throw light on that, how you came on the concept of design thinking 3 decades before, bring the product in different form, please.
I think we are having a running short of time. I think I already understand. I will be very brief in terms of telling the kind of thing. The innovation was done by my father, the sachet one. Okay, that's a principle of that. But what we do is that in terms of continuously, how do we series level of innovation we do? I think there are concepts of innovation. You know that the radical innovation kind of this thing is where how electricity has come, mobile phones have come. These are radically changing the lives at a grassroots level. Then the other one, if you have to look at the continual innovations are also there. Incrementalism and continual kind of this thing. Incremental innovations kind of this thing. So what we are constantly looking at is how do we kind of this thing play in this space, whether it is radical or continual kind of thing. A radical comes in with deep understanding and a lot of experiments being done in the lab. And the incremental innovations are easier to make kind of thing. So there is a concept also, one more concept called borrowed innovation, if you look at. So it's elsewhere, some part of the world it's popular, but it has not come in your part, in your territory. So we look at that also on various things we look at, then play with that kind of this thing. There is a kind of complete process. It will take at least 10 minutes to explain. I don't want to spoil the thing, but innovation is a kind of this thing itself. We have if you look at, we spend time. Innovation, we spend time on innovation. There is a review mechanism. There is a separate person responsible of innovation, if you look at, from the overall innovation head, called innovation head of innovation. Okay? There is R&D head. There are about 120 people are working in our R&D. It's only innovation on that kind of products. There's a packaging innovation. There is close to about 30 people working in packaging alone on various, what kind of a packaging we will innovate, kind of thing. And they are fed with what is happening elsewhere in Paris, what is happening in US, what is happening in Europe, which country, what is happening. Every information is fed to them. There is some other function which works and gives them the kind of inputs, what is happening around the world. So with that, they will also read a lot of concepts. They'll say, this is what is happening elsewhere, and this is what I am going to, first conceptual clarity and ideas we ask them to cipher. Once it is mental creation, this is an idea, then we say how we go about creating it. So it's a science by itself. There are 5 processes and stages we and say which idea is in which process and when it will hit the kind of this thing, it will come to light. All these things are tracked. So very systematic. Hope. Thank you.